Okay, how to put together your own training program. Now, one of the things that annoys me about running is the cost of entry. I want the cost of entry for kids or people who've never ran before to get into running, and for it to be as cheap as possible, for there to be almost no barrier to entry. And that's what it was like for me as a kid. You know, there's multiple options of where to go and join a running club and to be under the guidance of a coach. There's definitely an argument to have a coach, especially from an early age. It was literally £60 for your membership or £15 for a child at the time. So £15 for the year in order to be part of cross-country races, track and field races, road races, and every Tuesday and Thursday night there'd be track sessions or cross-country sessions in the winter, and then racing on a Saturday for your club or school, and then on a Sunday for your club or school again. It was incredible, and you got all that for literally next to nothing. So you had no barrier to entry. As we grow up, and as you kind of like the usual is for somebody to kind of do it in school or not, or do some kind of sport in school, and then leave running, get into their career, put on a little bit of weight as they sat in an office job, and then think, I want to do something with my life physically so that I get myself in better shape. And then so they sign up for a 5K, then they work towards a marathon, something like that. And so that barrier to entry becomes like, okay, you need £250-300 for a pair of super shoes, which are going to last 2 or 3 races. You need another shoe for an easy run. You need another shoe for trail. You need another, and it's total nonsense. Like, what you need is to insert that initial motivation into your daily routine and turn it into habit. That's all you need initially. You need to make sure that this initial drive that you have, you put that into a positive place. So once that becomes that you're able to kind of run every other day, or you gradually build up to run every other day, and then you want to put some structure, I'll tell you how that looks like, because it's a little bit like when I walk into the gym, especially in Dubai. But when I walk into the gym, there'll always be personal trainers around, because a personal trainer will happily take your $100 an hour, $150 an hour, and tell you, it'll literally count for you, 8, 9, 10, you can do it. And it's kind of like, if most runners are not like that. Most runners are already motivated enough to get out of the door and go and do what they really, really love. When we were training as kids, the coaching would be more around kind of holding us back and then being able to go faster when we really needed to, and push on and compete against each other in training. And then at the races at the weekend, that would really, really pay off. But to put structure in, you know, that was already there for us, because we were already kind of Tuesday and Thursday, and that's traditionally how it is in the UK. You train Tuesday and Thursday, which is too close together. It should be really kind of 72 hours in between hard sessions, and then racing at the weekend. So it's kind of like 3-4 hard sessions every week when we were kids. So it was easier for you to break. And more intelligent parent, or more wise parents at the time, would hold their kids back. So they'd do one training session during the week, hard. They'd take them out of that second training session, and then they'd only let them race once at the weekend, which is a much better plan, just to run like midweek hard and then weekend hard. But in order to put structure in, the structure is really, really, really simple. And then the structure to put that into your training, and then to kind of look at the progressions, it's almost the same as in the gym, which is, you know, the example that I've just given you from the personal trainer. So once you know the structure that needs to be inserted into your training program for you to improve, and you know the progressions, as long as you start to be really honest with yourself with the feedback, and keep a training diary, so that you can know. You need to know, like, if you're coaching yourself, or if you know yourself really well, you need to know what is hard to you, and what is hard to you might not be hard to somebody else. What does well, I could have done another 2 reps on that interval session. What does that actually mean? Does it mean that you know, like you know, if you were kind of at the front, on the front line of a war zone, of course you can get to safety even if you've got zero energy left. That's possible. Of course it's possible, but is it optimal for you to do those extra 2 interval repetitions? Is that optimal, or could you put, or were you under training? So you need to kind of like get to a point with that, and that is the job of a coach. A coach is more like, a coach's job is to really understand their athlete, really understand what they mean. And this is why online coaching, they kind of need to spend a lot of time on video or a lot of time on the phone to really like strike a really close relationship with that person, and then understand like where they need to add more and where they need to take away and what they need to add and take away. But the structure, really simple. So if you've just been running and you want to improve, you want to get faster and improve your times, depending on, regardless of what event you're training for, whether it's 5K, whether it's 10K, whether it's half marathon, or if you kind of put your hat in the ring to do a marathon, whatever it is you're training for, it needs some structure in order for you to get the best possible result you can do. And you know, the fact that you're watching this video, you are trying to aim for the fastest time that you possibly can, and therefore you've got something to aim at in the future, and we're all goal orientated to a certain extent. So the structure looks really simple. Like, you need a speed session, you need an interval session, which is going to push up your lactate threshold, which is a fancy term for you not going into the red, you being able to go as fast as you can without going into the red. And if you think about it, if you went out the door now and you all out sprinted, you probably last about 30 seconds maximum. All out sprinted, yeah. Maybe you'd even last 10 seconds if you're really well trained in sprinting. It's about pacing yourself and then being able to. But you need to make that forever growing interval within yourself, so that will have an effect, a positive effect on your race time, whatever it is, the race that you're trying to train for. So you need that speed session, that midweek interval session. And I say midweek because that session will initially take you about 45 minutes to an hour. And then as the weeks go on, it will take you about an hour and a half maximum, yeah? Most of the time maximum, even if you're training for a marathon. That weekend long run, which is the second part, which is the most important part as well. The midweek interval session, the weekend long run are the most important parts of the training. That weekend long run, you're focused on the objective of that session, stamina, endurance. So if you improve your endurance, your stamina, and you run at a slow pace for a long time, then that's going to feed back into your interval session. It's going to give you more strength to be able to go faster for longer in your interval session. And your interval session midweek is going to give you speed and speed endurance to feed back into your long run. So what you'll notice over the weeks as you add the progressions is you'll notice that your long run is naturally getting quicker for the same effort level. And it's all to do with effort level. So it's all to do with heart rate. Then your weekend long run is getting faster. You're able to kind of have a rest day afterwards, then recover, and then focus on that weekend, midweek interval session. And then what you'll find is you're naturally getting used to going fast over the ground. So you'll naturally get faster and be more comfortable at doing longer intervals or more reps in your interval session. And those two feed in really, really nicely to each other. So progressions. That's what it looks like. That's what the week looks like, and it doesn't get much more complicated than that. You can add in a short speed session where you're doing like 10 reps of 80 meters, strides, like 10 reps of 150 meters. So you're building that top end speed. You can add that in as well. Usually around kind of second, I'd usually add that. So if I'm doing Wednesday interval session, Thursday will be a rest day. Friday will be a recovery run. Saturday will be an easy run. And on the end of the easy run, I'll put some strides in there. And then I'll do the long run on the Sunday. Monday will be a rest day. Tuesday will be an easy run. It's not going to be as much, there's not going to be as much muscle damage and as much soreness in the muscles after the long run than the interval session. The interval session should take the most out of you. And then easy run on the Tuesday, and then strides and speed on top of that, and then again on the Wednesday go for the interval session again. That's how it looks. And ideally you do these things first thing in the morning. so that there's no getting out of them. There's no excuses where you can get out of it. It's just that simple. It's gonna get done. You're looking after your passion first thing in the morning, and then you feel more creative, more productive for the rest of the day. So progressions, what do they look like? I mean, on the long run, really simple. Whatever you're able to run at the moment. So if you're able to run for 8 miles or 13k at the moment, and that's your longest you've run, then that's your long run at the moment. Don't think long run means 2 hours. Long run means the longest that you can run at the moment. So start from 12k and start like, okay, I need to run this slow and be really, really comfortable. You want your heart rate to be in zone 2, which you need to kind of check. You need to check on that and see where it is. But zone 2, you should be able to get out the odd sentence when you're talking to somebody, and it's not too taxing, but it starts to get difficult in the final third or the final quarter. And then 12k, and then the next week, 14k or 15k. The next week after that, like 18k. So push up in 2 or 3k, 2 miles at a time, it is completely fine. So 12k, then 15k, then 18k, then 21k. But what I would do is every 4th week, so 12k, 15k, 18k, just bring it back to 15k. And then have 15k as your benchmark or kind of baseline long run, and then everything is, if that's where you're at the moment. If you're at 25k, then that would be your baseline. So what I do is 25k is my baseline long run, and then I'll build up to 28k, 31k, 35k, and then it will go up to 50k because I'm an ultra runner. And then so every 4th week, I'll bring it back to 25k. Why? What you'll do is, you don't want to be, like, the myth around marathon training or whatever it is you're trying to train for is that you should be fatigued all the time. That's not the case. You want to be fresh for the Wednesday interval session. You want to be fresh for the long run so that you can get the most out of those sessions, and the super compensation can be the biggest, and you can get the most improvement. So those are the progressions on that. So every 4th week, just bring it back, freshen up the legs. Same with the interval session, just every 4th week. It's a bit easier on the volume. There's not as much volume. You're not running as many miles, as many kilometers. You just bring it back. You keep the intensity the same, but you just bring it back a little bit so you can be fresh. And then for the interval session, depends what you're training for, but if you're training for a flat race and it's 5k or 10k or half marathon, whatever it is, then initially, if you've never done any speed work before, just start with 1 minute. So start with 10 times 1 minute or 12 times 1 minute with 60 seconds rest in between. And I'd always suggest you keep 60 seconds rest in between. And within that 60-second rest, you're focused on bringing your heart rate down from what it is during the interval, as much as you can. Bring it down so that you focus on that rest. And then over the weeks, you can monitor how good you are at bringing your heart rate down, how good you are at recovering in between reps, basically. How good you are at bringing your heart rate down from the top level that you're able to hit within the rep to just before you're starting the next rep. So start with 12 times 1 minute. 15 times 1 minute is a nice progression. 20 times 1 minute, or maybe 10 times 2 minute. Maybe you'll find that a little bit easier because you'll be going naturally. You'll be going a little bit slower within the 2 minute than the 1 minute, and there's less of them. And then you can build up to 3 minute intervals, 4 minute, 5. If you work with time, it's really easy. If you work with distance, you'll find that it's great to go out there and do 10 times a kilometer. It's brilliant. It's a great session, and you'll be able to monitor that over the week once you get fit. But initially, if you start with time, it's all very manageable. It's all very kind of like, you're able to see the distances that you've run, and you're able to not just look at paces and effort and what were the variables on that day. Was it hotter? Was it colder? Was it slippy underfoot? Was I running on different terrain? Was it undulating? If you work with time, it's much easier to look at just the one bit. How far did I go within that interval, and how does that match where I was? And then it becomes all about pacing. And then I build up to something like 10 times 5 minutes or 5 times 10 minutes. And that'll take you 3-4 months to get to that point. But once you get to that point and you can judge 10 times 5 minutes or 5 times 10 minutes, you're in a good place. And though, as I said, that long run and that interval session feed in really, really nice with each other, to each other.